Well, I'm in the kitchen again, and this is kind of special in a way. I want to start off with the fact that I went to the grocery this afternoon, hadn't had anything to eat, and you know what happens when you go on an empty stomach. You buy everything except what you needed. What I needed was Drano, and finally it was the last item I picked up after I went through all of the produce and the meats and everything. So I just happened to remember I've been eating mashed potatoes for the last 3 days, and it just occurred to me, oh, wait a minute, I've got a cookbook. You need to see this cookbook. I'm going to show it to you. It says, what does it say? Taste Across the States, a collection of family recipes from across America. Now, a couple of years ago, a friend of mine contacted me, and he said the newspaper is sponsoring a contest, and they want people to submit recipes. They're going to do a cookbook, and I thought you should enter that contest. So I said, well, give me the instructions and tell me what I need to do, and he did. And I said, how many recipes? He said, well, you can enter one recipe, or you can enter three different categories. And I thought, well, if I enter one recipe, I only stand chance of them accepting or not accepting it. But if I enter three, I've got 3 chances. So I entered 3 recipes. Now, I don't know why, and this was on email, I didn't keep copies of my email to the newspaper, and I forgot all about the contest. It was a few months later. I kept getting an email from this gentleman, and I'm in the habit of just deleting without reading, and suddenly I thought, well, I better see what that is. And it was a young representative from the newspaper. He was telling me that my recipe had been chosen, one of my recipes had been chosen for their cookbook. Well, that just shocked the daylights out of me. And there was a question he had to ask, and I thought, oh my gosh. I said, what recipe was it? Well, it was my mashed potatoes recipe. And he asked the question. I thought, oh, I don't remember. Will you read off what I sent you? And he did. And it said something about the oven, and I thought, I don't remember needing the oven for that recipe. So I just said, just forget the oven, you don't need it. So anyway, he said when the book was published, I would get a complimentary copy. Well, finally, the book came, and I discovered there were 27 major newspapers who had joined together to produce this cookbook. And I got to looking through, and I said, gee, I wanted to see how many entries there were from Lexington. There were 2, me and another girl. So I'm flipping through, and I get to the pages where it shows all of the a lot of pictures. And I thought, well, gee, I don't remember sending any pictures. I didn't know I was supposed to send a picture. Well, that's got to make a big difference. So I'm flipping through, and I'm looking one by one, and I come to this one page, and I look down here, and I say, that looked like my pink dish. Well, that is my pink dish. So I looked over here and read, and it says, Granny Pat's mashed potatoes, page 141. Oh my gosh. Obviously I did send a photograph. So it got in this little cookbook, and I thought that would interest you a little bit. It's kind of exciting for me because I thought, oh, there'll be hundreds and hundreds of entries. My mashed potato recipe is just ordinary. Well, as the young representative said, he said, everybody loves mashed potatoes. So I wanted to tell you that first. Now, we're going to make pimento cheese. This isn't like any other pimento cheese you've ever eaten. It doesn't have sharp cheddar. It doesn't have mild cheddar. I don't know what other ingredients people put in their pimento cheese, but mine is made totally from Velveeta. I grew up on Velveeta cheese. We didn't know there was any other kind of cheese except American cheese, and so I was used to Velveeta. I loved it. Now this recipe, I'll have to give my sister credit for this. She gave me this recipe, I hate to even say, 66 years ago. I was a young bride. We both were living in Louisville. Her husband was going to school at the Baptist Seminary, and he was pastoring a small country church in a little place called DeVoe, Kentucky, which was just a few miles from Louisville. One of the members of the church ran a little cafe in what's called DeVoe, a place most people have never heard of. It certainly won't be on your GPS, so you won't be able to get driving directions there. But my sister had eaten the pimento cheese at the ladies' little cafe, and she really liked it, and she said, would you give me the recipe? So she did. Now, all of the girls in my Sunday school class were having babies then, and I was one of them. So different ones were having to host the baby showers at their home, so I had to be host for one of them. I said, I don't know what I can fix. I've never done any party preparations or anything like that. And my sister said, make those pimento cheese sandwiches. They'll like those. Well, I did, and they did like them. And my family loves this pimento cheese, so we're going to get started with this. And what I used, I just happened to have this big 2-pound box of Velveeta. So I cut it in half. I'm just using half of it'll just be 1 pound. Now, first thing I'm going to do, I'm using the old-fashioned method, because when this recipe was given to me, you prepared the pimento cheese in a skillet. Well, I've learned through the years that microwave came along and you can actually do it in the microwave, but I want to do it the original way so that you can watch what I'm doing. When you do it in the microwave, you stand a chance of burning the cheese if you leave it in too long, that sort of thing. So by doing it on top of the stove, and this is supposed to be a non-stick skillet, and we're going to find out if it is or isn't. So I'm putting a little bit of oil in the bottom, about a tablespoonful. I think that'll do it. And spread that around a little bit in the skillet. I'm going to turn the burner on, and this has to be on low because you don't want to take a chance on burning the Velveeta cheese. All you want to do is melt it so that it gets very soft. So we're going to let that sit like that. Now I have already chopped up a pound of Velveeta cheese. This is going to make it easier for it to spread and heat up. So I'm going to just go ahead and put it in the skillet. that on low. And we're going to have to wait a little bit while it heats up some. I'll turn it up a little bit and then I'll turn it back down. So this is going to be an unusual pimento cheese for you. Or if you've ever heard of this pimento cheese before, I'd like to know where you got the recipe, who had made it, because I've never known anyone to have this particular recipe. And I will tell you this, it's great on hamburgers. It makes the best grilled cheese sandwich. The only problem you have is when you're grilling your bread, the pimento cheese is heating up and it'll run off of the bread. So you have to be careful and not put too much cheese on your bread or on your hamburger. But it sure does give your hamburger a different taste. So this is going to take some time. So I don't know if I got a story for you or not. I think I just told you the story. So my sister called me and she said, "You've got the prettiest pots and pans." And I said, "Oh, do you mean the red one on the stove?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "Well, I just bought it 2 days ago." I said, "I had that big yellow pot, and it's bigger, and it's heavy, and I was tired of looking at it, and decided I wanted a new pot. So I went out and bought one." She and I both always been used to Revereware. We've used Revereware for years and years and years and years, and we're still using the same pot, except I think we both had 1 or 2 pots that got a little too hot, burnt them black, so we just threw them in the garbage. There was no hope for reviving those pans again. I'm just going to work with this to get it started. It's starting to melt a little bit. I just need to get it into where it's one smooth skillet of Velveeta cheese. Now, if you're doing a party, this is great for a party too, because you can make a dip out of it. I love to eat it with Ritz crackers. And you just keep moving it around. Usually when I make pimento cheese, I call my daughter Jan and say I've made pimento cheese, and she says, "Save some for me." So I'm hoping you think the same thing when you try it, because people will be expecting it to taste like their average pimento cheese, the kind that you buy at the grocery that's already made up. That's what they're going to be expecting it to taste like. Not Velveeta. It doesn't taste anything like cheddar cheese. So, yeah. There we go. I'll let it sit there a minute. We'll have to turn it back down a little bit. Now, the pimentos that you put in, there's 3 different size jars. This is the little bitty jar. You see how the difference? Well, kind of see the difference. This is the middle size jar, and then there's a jar about this tall. You want, for 1 pound, you want to use the middle size jar, and it's chopped up. You can get the pimentos that are whole, but this is chopped up, and you want to use the juice. The juice is important in this recipe. Now, I'm going to turn this down because I'm starting to melt. this will surprise you. I'm going to put sugar. Gotta put sugar in this. Now, my recipe, usually when I make it, calls for 3 tablespoons of sugar. I like it that way. Some people don't want to be able to taste the sweetness. So, this is a 1/4 cup. I'm going to fill it half full to start with. Well, my sugar got hard on me. How could that happen? There we go. So I'm going to pour this sugar in here. Oh boy, don't I make a mess when I do something. Now there's about a tablespoonful. I'm going to sprinkle that around. And I'm going to continue stirring. Now the sugar will also melt and makes it creamy. So we let that mix like that. Now you have the choice of more sugar or less sugar. You just test it as you go. Need to get it a little bit low. You need, when I say low, I mean low. You see what I've got here? Okay, I'm going to add just a little more sugar. There we go. Stir that up again. Got to get it real low because we have a reason for needing it real low. I'll show you in just a minute. Here are my pimentos. I'm going to put the pimentos in, juice and all. All of the whole jar. And we just keep stirring. This is a very simple recipe. Looks pretty, doesn't it? Can you see it? Yeah. You get that all blended in there. Some of you are going to say, I'm not going to try that. No. Well, it's the only pimento cheese that gets eaten at my house. Now, you've got a good blend there. Next thing I'm going to do is, I've got 1 egg. Got to break that egg. Now I'm going to whip it. Okay. Got to whip good. Now, I'm going to pour this right in the middle of this pimento cheese because if it's too hot, the egg will cook. And you don't want the egg to cook. You don't want the egg to go to the edge of the skillet where it would fry around the edge. You want it to blend and get it all stirred up. So keep it very low on the heat until you know that that egg has blended with the cheese. I'm going to keep stirring till I see no signs of egg at all. just gotta keep stirring. I want to keep it away from the sides. Look very thin now, but it won't be once it gets cold. Now what I want to do, I want to test it. See if I put enough sugar in it. I think it's just right. So if you were doing the whole 2-pound box of Velveeta, I would put 3 tablespoons of sugar in it. Still cooking a little bit, but you got to make sure the egg cooked up. I'm just going to let it get warm, nice and creamy. I can't wait. I want to fix a hamburger and I want to put this cheese on top of it. I always have cheeseburgers. I never eat a hamburger without cheese. Most people have to have the tomato. I'm not a tomato person, so they get the moisture into their hamburger by having the tomato. I get the moisture into the hamburger by having the cheese. I think this is just about going to do it. But I'm still going to leave it on for a minute or so. So I'm sure this is going to be different to you, but I do want you to try it. And it's a great party dip if you will add a heaping tablespoon of mayonnaise with it. Because once you've made it into a dip, it won't be creamy. Dips are like this. And if it doesn't stay warm, it's going to stiffen and get more like the cheese was in the first place. Therefore, by adding the mayonnaise, it makes it creamy. And you can dip your Ritz crackers, you can dip your carrots, your celery, whatever you've got. Little chunks of bread work real well for parties. And I think you'll find your guests will be surprised. They will say, I want that recipe. And when my daughter sees this video, she's going to be saying, save some of the cheese for me. She's out of town this weekend. She's running around with her girlfriends. She didn't even invite me to go with her. Can you imagine that? Well, she's got a good excuse. She knows I don't like running around on the beach. She's not at the beach, come think of it. But she and I are both going to be at the beach in 2 or 3 more weeks. We're going together on a trip. And I'll be able to tell you about that when I get back. There we go. I'm going to turn it off now. And I'm going to let it... I can go ahead and pour it into my container. And this container... Don't you just love these dishes that have these lids on with this little... that seals it? Okay, I think that this is just the right size. It'll seal it good. Get the dishes out of the way. And I'm going to pour this right into that bowl. Whoa-wee. That looks good. I'll come back with a piece of bread and scrape the skillet with it. I should have this turned around the other way so you could see it, but I'm left-handed. Nothing ever works when you're left-handed. Okay, put that in the sink. Keep that right there. And I'm going to lick this right off the spoon. It's good. The next thing I need to tell you, this is important. As this cheese starts to cool, it'll get a film on top of it. And you know what I'm talking about. It's just like with a cream pie, you have to cover it good with your saran wrap, because if you don't, as it's cooling, it gets a slight film. This will do the same thing. So every 5 or 10 minutes, you just give it a stir, and by the time it has cooled, you can put the lid on. Put the lid on, and you keep checking it to make sure that it's cool enough, because you don't want that kind of rubbery film on top of your pimento cheese. So here you go. This is my recipe to you, and I sure do hope you like it. I really do. I think you will. See, that's a lot of pimento cheese there. That's a 1 pound. Keep in mind, 1 pound, 1 egg, tablespoonful of oil, the middle-sized pimentos, and 1 or 2 tablespoons of sugar. That's it. That gives you your pimento cheese for the day. And I think I'm going to go sit down for a few minutes after my cheese cools. I'll probably come in and fix myself a couple of pimento cheese sandwiches. So I'm going to leave this here, and I don't want to forget to stir it up. So I'll be back with you again, and I'm telling you, I watched and read my comments today, and they are just fabulous. You people are fantastic. You just give me such a lift. I can't tell you how good it makes me feel, because you already know I'm 86 years old. What do 86-year-old women do? They read, they watch TV, they read some more. Some of them are still able to walk around the block. And I hope a lot of them know how to use computers, because it's been a lifesaver for me. I think I've been on Facebook 13 years now. It just blows my mind to think that I've been able to do that. But I've got smart kids. When I have problems, I call, tell me what to do. The funniest one was, I called my daughter and I said, everything I go to on my computer is in Portuguese. How do I get it off? She starts telling me, go up in the right corner suddenly and find the 3 little dots. No little dot. There's no little dot there. Well, then go to the left column and look down and see if you find something that says language. No, nothing says language. She says, well, then I don't know what to tell you. You're just going to have to hire somebody to fix it for you. So it finally got back So anyway, that's it for today, and I'm glad you're joining me, and I want to hear what you think about my pimento cheese recipe. I really hope you like it. Yeah, here we go again. If this ain't the craziest thing I ever saw, it just won't go off. I'm still trying. Well, let's try it this way. I can't get it to close. Oh, now I'm back. Oh, do you like my cat eye glasses? Yeah, my daughter gave me those. See you later.